Openings in video games. Don't you all miss them? They're kind of a dying medium in the video game industry. I remember when almost every mainline game used to have them in order to hype up the player to play their game. And no other game series can do this better in my opinion than Sonic the Hedgehog. This franchise is famous for having some of the best animated sequences to greet the player right before you begin your journey. There's so much variety and style in all of the openings that Sonic has, it's almost hard to choose a favorite one, but I assure you that many of them will stick in your head for the rest of time. As a Sonic fan, I'm sure we find ourselves coming back to these openings time and time again, over and over, just to rewatch these masterpieces once more. It's one thing to have a single game in your franchise produce a masterful opening, but to have this consistent quality across the entire series is something truly spectacular to behold. And it all started with the first opening of the Sonic series, Sonic CD. Being animated by Toei Animations, Sonic CD's opening is a masterclass in producing and defining the character of Sonic the Hedgehog. I still to this day believe that this opening best characterizes the style and personality of Sonic. The way that he speeds through the environment with the sharp edges and lines popping out his brilliant character design is simply amazing to watch. And the music that accompanies this opening, my god, whether you're listening to the Japanese or English soundtrack, you're sure to be jamming out to it while you watch this amazing animation. I know I speak for many when I say that this opening set the standard of what Sonic openings should aspire to be and have continued to be throughout the decades. It's crazy to think that they put this much effort into a mascot platformer back then. It's reasons like this that made the Sonic series so stand out to so many people among its competition. And stand out the series would continue to do as it went into the 3D era. Imagine this scenario. You're a kid who just got the brand new Dreamcast and Sonic Adventure, one of the best 3D platformers of that generation. You open the game and the first thing you're greeted to is that cutscene. The mysterious and distraught music, the chaotic and destructive visuals pour out through your screen, and you wonder, did I pick up the right game? As you continue to watch destruction happening, cities being blown up with water, and you start to see some familiar visuals. Is that Angel Island falling once again? You transition back to the destroyed city as the song begins to get more loud and chaotic, and you start to see a creature manifest. What is this thing, and why does it look so creepy? As the creature begins to scream, you transition to more fast-paced and sporadic visuals, as if something is speeding through the area. That's when you start to begin to see the most familiar visuals, the characters. You start to see Amy, Tails, two mysterious robots, and then Dr. Eggman on top of the ship, and the music starts to transition to a more rock and roll beat. And finally, towards the end of the opening, you finally see whose perspective you are looking at through those chaotic and fast-paced visuals. It was none other than Sonic the Hedgehog. This opening just slaps. Just like Sonic CD, it perfectly captures and sets the tone for the entire game and the character of Sonic. The fact that it doesn't show the main character until the very end of the sequence just goes to show you that the artists who made this opening knew what they were doing and how to appeal to the fans of the game. It's almost cinema-like the way that this opening does visual storytelling through the characters and music. Like a music video, hyping you up for the lead singer of the entire album. And when it finally reaches its climax, boom, you see the main character there to save the day once again. Which goes to show for the entire opening sequence. As chaotic and destructive as it was, it's still nothing that Sonic can't handle. And that to me is just brilliant storytelling. Sonic Adventure 2's opening is also good at setting the tone and atmosphere for the game, as it starts off with probably the most pivotal and important character to the story, Shadow the Hedgehog. It starts off with him quite literally looking down upon everybody from the top of the city, which does well to sell his importance to the story, as well as just some decent visual storytelling, with the game literally foreshadowing his arc from this moment. The opening also transitions to the 6 main characters from the light and dark side of this story, intertwined with cuts between Sonic and Shadow's battle on Radical Highway. This type of editing flow is just endlessly stylish and does an amazing job of, again, setting the atmosphere for the game and the overarching themes of the game being that it's light versus dark. Even though this opening is a little on the shorter side, I still think it's up there as one of the best ones for that ending shot alone of Sonic and Shadow crossing through each other with the moon in the background. Simply iconic. And next up, we have a Sonic opening that I'm not really that much of a fan of, Sonic Heroes opening. Don't get me wrong, it's still endlessly enjoyable and really fun to watch, but the highly saturated colors and the more cutesy preschool aesthetic of the opening just doesn't really do it for me. That being said, the music in the opening is still a bop, and the good visual storytelling that is found throughout all the Sonic openings is done well, with Sonic being occasionally helped by his friends in the opening sequence, and it finally ending their individual sequence with him holding both their arms and taking off, brilliantly showcasing the main mechanics of this game, and that is the teamwork mechanic that you will have to use throughout every stage. The opening then takes us through a glimpse at every other team in the game, Team Dark, Team Rose, and Team Chaotix, and how they interact and how they're also important to the story. The ending to this opening is also great, with it showing Eggman's entire armada being absolutely destroyed by Team Sonic as they grind on rails and try to escape an explosion, and the video is cut in a way in which we don't know if they made it out or not. Pair that with the transition to Metallic Overlord being bathed in this harsh lighting and rain, and it kind of gives an eerie feeling before you finally get to the ending where it shows the main cast, once again reinforcing the idea that no matter how dire the situation is, Sonic and his team of friends are always going to make it out okay. One of the more cheesy openings, but it still does well to reinforce that style that the Sonic series is always well known for. The next opening on this list, however, oh boy. If Sonic Heroes opening was too cheesy and kind of childish, then Shadow the Hedgehog takes it in the other extreme, where it's too edgy and tries too hard to be mature. That being said, I still like a lot of the things that this opening does. That shot in the beginning where he's standing on the top of the cliff, gun in hand, as the full moon bathes him in harsh moonlight, is simply raw till this day, and it easily impressed me as a kid back then. Pair that with the harsh butt rock music playing in the background and the eerie police sirens, and it definitely makes a case for itself that yeah, this ain't your typical Sonic game. Even though the game itself is pretty mediocre, I still say that Shadow the Hedgehog's opening does well to fully embrace its edgy persona and commit to the bit fully, and for that I definitely commend it. Also, some choice shots in the opening, such as the shots of Sonic's friends slowly moving into frame to stop the aliens from taking over the city, and the final shot of Shadow standing over Sonic's completely messed up body, implying that Shadow finally done him in for the first time, really can appeal to those edgy Shadow the Hedgehog fans who kinda misunderstood his personality, but at the same time is quite charming in a way. The opening is also pretty artistic with its cuts between Shadow's deep monologuing about what his purpose in the world is, combined with intertwined shots of him absolutely going crazy and mad over his rage. The animation does well to sell this dichotomy between the character, even if it kinda gets him wrong. And the shots showing the military, Dr. Eggman, and Sonic's friends equally trying to get to the aliens and enact their own will upon the people, again, does well to showcase the main gameplay gimmick of this game. Definitely not one of the best Sonic games, but in terms of the opening, it's still just as amazing as the rest. And now we move on to Sonic 06, a game which started the trend of not really having a game opening, but having an opening cutscene that clearly is meant to be the game's beginning. And I just gotta say, for a game that's often touted as one of the worst video games of all time, this opening would not lead you to believe that, because oh man, it is simply gorgeous. I know there are the jokes of people saying that 99% of the budget went into this opening sequence, which may not even be a joke because Sega does commission these CGI openings to different studios, but you just gotta love how it's framed and how everything comes together. We have this mysterious land with a princess that we've never seen before, opening what looks to be a ceremony, until Eggman's robots crash the parade, and just when all seems hopeless and lost, Sonic the Hedgehog shows up once again on the scene to save the day.
Wow, that's a pretty snazzy performance there.
This time, being just as cocky and arrogant as ever, proving that even in this mysterious world and game, the characters are still the same.
I'm Sonic! Sonic the Hedgehog!
Top that off with the amazing action sequence that follows and the mysterious dialogue from Silver the Hedgehog standing on top of the castle, and you would almost mistake this game to be a masterpiece if you never played it past this point. The music in this opening also does well to sell the revolutionary vibe that I'm sure Sega team was going for when making this game. If the Sonic team did put all of their budget into this opening, I'd say it was definitely well worth it. On to some of the spin-offs, we have Sonic Riders and the 2 storybook games. These openings slap just as hard, if not harder, than some of the mainline titles. I mean, just look at Sonic Riders. Being produced by the same animation studio that made Attack on Titan of all things, this opening just oozes style and expression, unlike any other opening we've seen up to this point. The sense of speed and personality we get from every character is showcased brilliantly through these amazing, expressive animations. The techno music also sells the idea of this being a super hyper-futuristic racing game, with the lyrics in the song kind of matching the action that's happening on screen. My absolute favorite part of this opening is the moment they go into the tunnel and Tails gets knocked off his board by Storm. In a moment of great characterization, Sonic doesn't hesitate to turn back, losing his lead in the race just to help his best friend. I mean, you just don't get this kind of Sonic anymore. Such a short and concise moment fully characterizes the idea of Sonic the Hedgehog. The fact that this opening showcases him being cocky and kind of arrogant for the entire race, doing flips on his boards, falling throughout the air, and constantly doing poses at the camera, just for him to not even give a second thought at going back to help his best friend, perfectly personifies the character of Sonic the Hedgehog. And that ending shot where they slowly speed up to Jet's team as the lyrics themselves start to state supersonic speed, all the characters in the opening blur into a collage of colorful arrows as their combined mass transitions brilliantly into the game's title card. That entire animation sequence is just simply mesmerizing to behold. This opening is definitely one of my favorites for its sense of style and its unique art aesthetics. But another underrated Sonic opening happens to be Sonic and the Secret Rings. This is an opening that doesn't get talked about nearly as much as it deserves to, which is quite a shame, because for as short and uneventful this opening actually truly is, I still think it's on par with some of the high-tier openings on this list, just for the fact that it sets the tone for the story brilliantly and characterizes the Eraser Djinn and Sonic perfectly. I mean, just take a look at the few opening seconds of this cutscene, showcasing the actual final level in the game, the amazing jazz music playing in the background, as you see the beautiful Night Palace gleaming in the moonlight in the Arabian desert. And as the shots lead up to Sonic pouring into the frame, you begin to get this uneasy feeling about yourself, considering how serious Sonic is and the situation he's in. What follows is a 3-minute montage showing the Eraser Djinn's incredible power, summoning endless monsters, a stream of storms, erasing the words from the Arabian books, and all of that towering over the entire Night Palace, showcasing the amount of power and might the Eraser Djinn has. But as you look to the massive desert starscape, you see Sonic standing there, flame in his chest, looking entirely badass, about to take on probably one of the hardest challenges he's done in his life. And as the track 7 Rings in Hand begins to play in the background, you see the ring on Sonic's finger light up, he takes it, puts it over his heart, and absolutely takes off to the palace. Words cannot describe just how hyped this opening is for me. It came as a complete surprise since I kinda skipped the opening when I first played the game. When you finally get to the final level of the game, and you see this, it just leaves you in awe. So much amazing detail and subtleties went into this opening that it's so fun to pick apart, especially the parts where Sonic and the Eraser Djinn meet up. Those cuts to the palace and him outside of the palace really does a good job of setting up how daring of attacks this will be for him. But just like all the other Sonic openings, it will be a piece of cake for the Blue Hedgehog. I'll be kinda quick with Sonic and the Black Knight, as it doesn't really have an opening much like Sonic 06, but I just gotta say that him throwing the chili dog up into the air at the end and completely obliterating the armed forces that are attacking Melia is probably one of the more cooler moments that us Sonic fans reminisce upon, especially with how cocky and arrogant he still is from the beginning, showcasing that no matter where Sonic is, he brings personality and style to the location. But now, onto the opening that I'm sure everybody's been waiting for, Sonic Unleash's opening. I mean, is there really much for me to say? It's everyone's favorite opening. The scene plays like a freaking motion picture movie. Hell, some feature-length films try to aspire to get this quality of animation. And this is in a video game of all things. I think your opening cutscene is brilliant when people say they want this to be as a movie instead of, the live-action Sonic we did get. But on to the specifics, I mean, there's just not much for me to say. Everyone knows how amazing this is. The god-tier animation as Sonic blazes through the forces of Eggman, the opening shot where he lands on the carrier with the flames in the background and space being highlighted behind him, the amazing transition to him being supersonic as the orchestral music plays throughout the background as he goes from spaceship to spaceship, tearing it apart. This opening defined who Sonic the Hedgehog was after an abysmal game such as Sonic 06. It is not only the longest Sonic opening, but also the most beautiful looking and probably the best animated one. And the fact that this is all just to set up the story of Sonic Unleashed and they didn't even use it in the ending, it's just absolutely gorgeous. I don't know what to say. Even as of now writing this video, there has never been a Sonic opening, nay, a game opening, that has come to be this hype and this high quality. Sonic Unleashed simply set the standard too high that all other Sonic openings after this point don't really stand a chance. And that's quite the tragedy I want everybody to get at the end of this video, is that game openings, especially Sonic openings, are kinda dead in the modern gaming industry. I should go on to talk about Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations opening, but really, they're great and all, they do not match the quality of the beginning of Sonic openings at all. With Sonic Lost Worlds in particular kinda being a disappointment as it's just the generic Deadly Six attacking Flickies and Sonic doing some parkour and that's it, he just ends it there. The last proper Sonic opening we got was Sonic Mania's opening, which I just gotta say, it looks just as gorgeous, if not more, than Sonic CD's opening, though it is less action-packed. Tyson and his team did such an amazing job on this opening that he got his own animated series that has over 100 million views on YouTube till this day. That only makes me more sad though, as I wish we could have got a full feature-length film of the Sonic Unleashed opening that is admired and considered the best among its fans. But we can still dream, as newer and newer games, especially Sonic games, showcase their lackingness to have a game opening, just jumping right into it, to favor a more short attention span gaming industry. People like me probably still fawn over the days where we can open a game and the first thing we saw was not a buggy mess, but a truly artistic piece that showcases the best qualities of the video game we were about to experience. And that's why, in my opinion, Sonic stood out the most among its contemporaries. Its bold action sequences at the beginning of each game, well-defined character moments throughout each opening, and the amazing visual storytelling within them. That is the beauty of Sonic openings.